Boom! We are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Nolan Hawkeye Anthony YouTube channel. I thank all of you for being here, wherever you may be, and of course, however you may be listening. Welcome back to another edition of the game preview. This week it will be Iowa versus Illinois, and the Iowa Hawkeyes this year, and I think it's worth noting that regardless of what has happened offensively, Brian Ferentz not returning this upcoming year, his contract being done following the conclusion of this season. If you think about the fact that Iowa lost two of its, well, three really, but definitely two in Luke Lachey and Eric All, but definitely you could throw Cade McNamara in there as well. Three of their starting players on offense. It is still pretty impressive that they have been able to win so many games with that fact. I mean, regardless, the defense would still be what the defense is, and the special teams would still be what the special teams is. And it's not just them. I mean, Iowa has had injuries to Caleb Johnson, Josiah Patterson. The list goes on and on. I think with all that said, it is impressive that Iowa is 8-2, and we did see a step in the right direction against Rutgers, who was a formidable defense. Iowa had a great second half of offensive production, and we saw some improvement. Now, we are looking ahead to their game against Illinois, and Iowa has clinched at least a share of the Big Ten West title. If they win one more game of their last two games, they will be Big Ten West champions. The past 2 weeks have seen massive movement in the Big Ten West and has essentially given Iowa, not essentially, it has given Iowa sole possession of the Big Ten West, and they absolutely control their own destiny. Now, conversely, Illinois earlier in the year was having some rough patches, but they had battled back and have begun to get hotter and hotter as the year progresses. We will take a look at both of those. But before we get into any of that, I want to ask you guys to consider smashing that subscribe button. At the very least, like, comment, share. I hope you guys consider hitting that donation button, support your boy's coffee habit. You guys can do so by clicking the donation button or checking the description box for the PayPal or Cash App. And I hope you guys check out the Big Ten Whip Around show. And without further ado, let's get into this. So as we always do, guys, we're looking at the game matchup predictor presented to us by ESPN. ESPN gives Iowa a 75.3% chance of winning this football game compared to Illinois, 24.7%. This game is going to be played at Kinnick Stadium. It's the last home game of the year for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And this should definitely be a very interesting contest, considering Brett Bielema and his connections to the Iowa Hawkeyes, and really just his connections to the Big Ten West in general. I believe Illinois did defeat Iowa last year and is definitely one that they would like to have back. I was thinking about this today. Iowa, as an Iowa fan, winning the Big Ten West was absolutely within grasp last year. Yes, I was correct. They did lose to Illinois on the road, 9-6. They lost 3 in a row that year to Michigan, Illinois, and Ohio State, and then proceeded to rattle off 4 straight victories before losing to Nebraska. Iowa very realistically could have and probably should have made it to 3 straight Big Ten championship games and won 3 straight Big Ten West titles. And, I want you guys to know that regardless of what I say or what critiques I have of the Iowa Hawkeyes, I always say that there are those Iowa fans that believe it is disloyal to critique the Iowa football program in any way. But no matter what I say, it is still impressive how many games Iowa has been able to win over, I would say really over the last 8 years, definitely the last 5. It has been nice. And it's very interesting to look at Kirk Ferentz's tenure. And I like to look at it in 5-year increments, redshirt year plus 4 years preceding. And, when you look at the 5-year marks, he really has had a very, all encompassing coaching career as the head coach at the University of Iowa. But anyways, moving back to Iowa versus Illinois, the leading passer for Illinois is Altmaier, L. Altmaier. He has 1,883 yards, 13 touchdowns to 10 INTs. I think he's probably been the most productive Big Ten West quarterback by and large. Deacon Hill, 715 yards, 4 TDs to 5 INTs. Considering that this is his first year ever being a starting quarterback, I wouldn't say that his production has been terrible, and there has been some bright spots. The thing that Deacon Hill really needs to work on is touch and kind of monitoring his throws, and I mean it both ways. At times, he throws too much of a touch pass when a bullet is required. And we saw that in the interception across the field on the goal line against Rutgers. At times, he throws too much of a rocket. So he needs to kind of, work on his throw speeds a little bit. But there has been some bright spots. For Iowa, the leading rusher is LaShawn Williams, 123 carries, 614 yards, 1 TD. I would really love it if in his final year he can get to the 1,000-yard mark. I think it's definitely within reach. For Illinois, the leading rusher is Caden Fagan, 95 carries, 438 yards, 2 tubs. Iowa was definitely in on Fagan and was one of his finalists. Ultimately, he chose to stay in home at Illinois. And I remember this recruitment because it was definitely at the height of the pandemic. And, Iowa was not able to build the type of relationships that they would like to build. Plus, there was a lot of negative recruiting that was going on. I mean, there always is, but it was even more pronounced that year. And ultimately, he chose Illinois, which I can respect. I can respect wanting to stay loyal to your home state team and trying to build something great within the state that you hail from. The leading receiver for Iowa is Nico Reganey. Overall, it is still Eric All, but the leading current receiver that is not injured is Nico Reganey, aka Nico Ragaini, aka Nico Ragaani. He is just below the 299-yard mark. Let's see if we can go ahead and look at the stats for Iowa as a whole, so I can just show you guys what we're talking about here. Deacon Hill has a rating of a 90.5, still a little bit below what Cade McNamara had. Caleb Johnson is well below what I predicted his season to be. I predicted him to be a 1,000-yard rusher. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy, and Caleb Johnson is very much a rhythm runner, not a plug and play running back. And he just has not been able to consistently stay on the field enough to get the groove that he would like to have. I think if he can get to the 500-yard mark, it would be great. It's either going to be LaShawn Williams gets close to the 1,000 or Caleb Johnson gets close to the 500. I don't think both will be accomplished, but it has been good that Iowa's running back room, by and large, has gotten a lot of run. The true freshman, Kamari Moulton, as well as Trell Washington Jr., and then Josiah Patterson and Caleb Johnson. So the running back room is in good shape, and I'm really looking forward to what they can do next year. But LaShawn Williams, due to and honestly, I think LaShawn Williams has been the best running back for the Iowa Hawkeyes this year. but mainly due to him not getting injured, which is a really big skill to have, is availability. He has been the go-to back for Iowa this year. And when you look at LaShawn Williams, and this is why they say that one of the best skill traits that you can have, or best skills, is availability, because it's so true. LaShawn Williams, if you look across his career, he really has been a pretty available guy. Nico Reganey has 167 yards, Deontay Vines 134, Seth Anderson 115, Addison Ostrenga 92. So let's go ahead and go back to the preview here. I love this game because Iowa versus Illinois, I just love the connection that Brett Bielema has to the Iowa Hawkeyes, and that kind of added chippiness. Iowa is absolutely going to be looking to seal their Big Ten West championship bid, and would like nothing more than to get a victory over Illinois, especially considering what happened last year. I know the players would not probably would not reference that, but I can guarantee you it's in the back of their minds. You look at the last five, as I said, Illinois has been a fairly hot team of late. They did lose to Wisconsin by 4, which I'm sure they'd like to have back. But if you look at their last 4, they're 3-1, which is not bad. So Iowa is definitely catching Illinois in an upward trajectory, but at the same time, Illinois is catching Iowa in an upward trajectory as well. The last 5, so Illinois defeated Indiana 48-45 in overtime and 27-26 over Minnesota 2 weeks ago. Iowa's last 5, 22-0 over Rutgers, 10-7 over Northwestern. And as I said, guys, Northwestern, I have them in my tier 2 teams. They are just as hot, if not hotter, than Northwestern. They have had a much better season than people predicted, and they are definitely a team to watch moving forward with the new head coach that they have after Pat Fitzgerald's dismissal. You guys can see Iowa is 4-1 in their last 5. The weather for this game is expected to be 64 degrees. Partly sunny, partly cloudy. Iowa is a 3.5-point favorite. And the betting line, the over and under, is 30.5. And I guarantee that that's going to go down in lieu of Iowa. I would say that the last 4 and maybe even 5 games have all been hit the under for the Iowa Hawkeyes. I mean, it's incredible. So I think that number 30.5 will go down probably to 28, maybe even 27. But Iowa being 3.5-point favorites is actually a little bit bigger than I expected. I expected them to only be like a 1, maybe 2-point favorite in this game. Here are the Big Ten standings. Iowa, as you guys can see, in sole possession, 5-2 in conference, 8-2 overall. Illinois, 3-4, 5-5 overall. All right, guys, let's move forward here. Let's go ahead and check out the Illinois depth chart. You guys can pause it. I'll just kind of get a quick shared screen on that, and you guys can pause it and take a look. All right, guys, here we have Illinois depth chart. Actually, you know what? I'm going to use Outland. Sometimes our lads is not completely accurate, but anyways, it's mostly accurate though. Like I said, if you guys want to screen grab, absolutely do that. I'm curious to see what the running back situation is. Reggie Love is still listed as the number 1 RB. Let's see what else we have. And then this is the defensive depth chart for Illinois as well. Iowa is essentially the same as it was the week before. Not really a ton of changes there for the Iowa Hawkeyes. We did see some injuries, unfortunately, but it looked like all the guys who potentially were injured on the offensive line still played. I mean, Logan Jones still listed as the starting center. Rusty Feth, Mason Richmond, so everything essentially looks the same there. It's been interesting. Dejon Parker was a really good get in the portal, but we haven't really seen him this year, and that's kind of what the portal is, guys. Like, sometimes it's a really great hit, sometimes it's not. And it's just too bad that he doesn't have any more eligibility, because I would really like to see what he would be capable of doing with multiple years of development at the University of Iowa. And then this is the defense for Iowa as well. So if you guys want to pause it there, absolutely. And last but not least, we have the team stats. I don't know why ESPN's page of late has not listed the team stats. It used to have the team stats listed below, and it would be a perfect compare and contrast. But I'm looking it up anyways here. Iowa is third in scoring defense. Absolutely magnificent. You guys know I said in the preseason that Iowa's defense would be, if it was even possible, better than last year's defense that was littered with NFL talent. And that is definitely looking to be the case. Michigan, Ohio State, Iowa, Penn State, all in the top 5 in scoring defense. Iowa is only giving up 12.3 points per game. Absolutely phenomenal. Illinois looks like they are not on page 1. Let's see here. Illinois is 98th in scoring defense. So that absolutely benefits Iowa. If they can muster 22 points against a Rutgers defense, Iowa has played 2 decent defenses in a row in Northwestern and Rutgers. I like what they can possibly do against Illinois. Illinois is giving up 29.3 points per game, which is definitely something that they would like to improve upon. Illinois is 89th in scoring offense. They're averaging 23.8 points per game. Every week I'm reminded that if Iowa was able to have that stat line, they would be undefeated. That is how good they are. By the way, guys, I did want to show you guys this as well. We will circle back. Since it's here, Iowa 120th in scoring offense, averaging 18.8 points per game. 120th in the country, right behind Nebraska, who is 118th, averaging 18.9 points per game. But I did want to show you guys this. This is from Power Rankings Guru. They do have Iowa 25th in their power ranking. Illinois is 63rd, excuse me. And this also has a strength of schedule, which, I actually really enjoy, because a lot of people say that Iowa is only 8-2 because their schedule is one of the easiest in the country, which is just definitively false. I'm seeing where Rutgers is at. Rutgers 48th, according to Power Rankings Guru. Of course, Iowa defeated them this past week. This is the strength of schedule. And as you guys can see here, if it's red, the more difficult the schedule. The more green, the more easy the schedule. And Iowa has the 41st most difficult schedule. So that's still above average. They still have an above average strength of schedule in difficulty. Illinois has a slightly more difficult strength of schedule, 29th. And again, they are ranked 63rd in the country. So I thought that would be an interesting page to look at. I think I am going to reference that page more moving forward. Moving on here, we have total defense. Michigan 1, Penn State 2. They did just play this past week with Michigan getting the better of Penn State without Jim Harbaugh. Ohio State 4th, Iowa 8th. And as I say, week by week, Iowa is a bend don't break defense, but still being in the top 10 in total defense is magnificent. Wisconsin 33rd. I'm a little bit surprised, guys, at the lack of Illinois defense. This is the first time that I'm looking at their team statistics, and I would have guessed that the reason why they are 5-5 has far more to do with their strong defense as opposed to a decent or a slightly better offense. But it looks like it's the opposite. It's their offense that is slightly better than the defense, and neither their offense or their defense is above average. It's average. In the 70 range is about average because there's 130 teams in Division I football, 1A. You guys can see here, Illinois 77th in total offense, 387.9 yards per game. And the last stat that we'll look at is total offense. So I am definitely surprised by that, guys. I was expecting Illinois to have a much better defense than what I'm seeing here. This is total offense. Illinois 59th in the country, which is not bad at all. That's definitely slightly above average. 395.7 yards per game. And then Iowa, even with last week, will probably be last. And they are 130 in the country in total offense, 243 yards per game. All right, guys, the last part of this video is my prediction. There's a ton to play for the Iowa Hawkeyes in this game. They absolutely will be invested in this game. And even if they did not know that it only took one more win to play in the Big Ten championship game, this still would be a very important game for the Iowa Hawkeyes. They have Illinois has Brett Bielema on the other side, who has Iowa Hawkeye ties, and of course, Illinois defeated Iowa in a grudge match. This is the game that Iowa, of the last two, has to secure. And if you're Illinois, this would be a magnificent victory for your team. It really would. It would take this season from slightly underperforming to maybe even slightly overperforming. I don't know for sure what the expectations were for Illinois. I think most people thought that they'd take a step back with the players that they lost from last year. But if you can beat Iowa late in the year, it'll be a pretty nice victory for the Fighting Illini. For the Iowa Hawkeyes, again, a ton to play for. And what makes this to me, must-win victory of the last two, of course, Nebraska is going to be a very important game, believe me, is the fact that this game is at home. And I believe it's going to be senior night. This is just going to be a game where the Iowa players are totally, in theory, knock on wood, ready to go. I was a little bit surprised to see Illinois not have the defense that I would have expected, especially from what we saw last year. The Illinois defense has definitely taken a step back, but their offense is also a little bit better than I expected as well. I think that this actually is a tremendous matchup for the Iowa Hawkeyes and is in the Iowa Hawkeyes' favor. If this Illinois team was more like what we saw last year, I would not be saying that, but because, or at least on the defensive side of things, but because Illinois is so lackluster defensively. Now, granted, Iowa is lackluster offensively. The bottom line is what it comes down to is Illinois and their offense, while better than I expected, is not better than Iowa's defense, and so good that they will Illinois to a victory and out muster Iowa's defense. I just don't see it happening. And conversely, I see Iowa's offense being able to muster at least something against this Illinois defense. I'm very interested to see Deacon Hill continue to progress. I would love to see LaShawn Williams inch closer to the 1,000-yard rushing mark, and we'll see if Brian Ferentz continues to utilize his young tight ends and try to get the ball to his wide receivers more. I do also want to mention, before I give my game prediction, I told you guys in the Iowa Hawkeye football season preview and predictions, also the wide receiver preview, that, and I feel like I know Kirk Ferentz personally. I just know him so well. I said that Caleb Brown, I told you guys to halt your expectations when it came to Caleb Brown, and especially him landing at Iowa, that what was indeed going to happen was Caleb Brown was not going to see the field a ton early on in the season, but he would see the field later in the season. And to a T, that is exactly what has happened. That is what Iowa loves to do. They love to take young players in and develop them, no matter how talented they are, and ease them into the process. We've seen that with Xavier Wanpa. It was still relatively quick, but they still had him earn his spot, which is a great thing, and develop his skills. We saw it with AJ Epinesa, and we've seen it with some of the higher recruited athletes that have joined this Iowa football team. And for me, even though I knew that to be the case, and I predicted that to be the case, I even myself was getting frustrated that the Iowa football coaching staff was not getting Caleb Brown on the field, because ultimately, regardless of development, I was thinking to myself, it can't hurt. This offense is so abysmal, it can't hurt, especially getting Caleb Brown involved in the run game, considering he is or was a running back in high school. So he knows how to run the football, and he's a tremendous athlete. By the way, Caleb Brown does hail from the state of Illinois, so he does have the Illinois connection. I'm sure this will be a big game for him, and he would like nothing more than to have a massive game. And he looked excellent against Rutgers. To tell you the truth, at times in the game, he looked like the best playmaker Iowa had on offense. So I look for them to get him more involved, even more involved this upcoming week, both in the run game and the pass game. I really hope that they do so, because that jet sweep involving Caleb Brown was a very nice couple of plays for the Iowa Hawkeyes. I'm going to predict the Iowa Hawkeyes to win this game 20-10. I think they win this game by double digits, and I do think they get to 20 points due to the lackluster Illinois defense. And I think Iowa, is able to hold Illinois to less than 15 points. I'm going to go with 10. Iowa's defense is just playing out of its mind right now. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys consider smashing that subscribe button. At the very least, like, comment, share. You guys know the drill. If you guys want to donate to the channel, you absolutely can. I thank you guys for your support this entire year. We are nearing the end, and I hope that I've done right by you guys. I really have tried to stay consistent with the content and get it out in a timely manner. And of course, coming up with good content in general. So I thank you guys tremendously. I will see you guys next week. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy with all facts or feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. Love you guys. See you guys next time. Go Hawks. Bye.